Hi everyone, welcome. This is the first time that I've done anything like this over Zoom, so bear with us. I thought I'd give a quick introduction on what is Landscape Painters Anonymous, and then I thought we could all introduce ourselves very briefly, and then we'll get on with some painting. So I started Landscape Painters Anonymous about 5 years ago when I moved to St Ives in Cornwall, and it was a way of trying to overcome some guilty feelings that I felt about going out painting in the landscape, because somehow I felt like it was this sort of self-indulgent or this sort of guilty pleasure, because I don't know, I guess I'd been taught at art school that landscape painting wasn't critically engaged enough, shall we say. And so it started off with a bunch of friends going out painting, and then it's evolved from there, and I've been doing various workshops, mainly out in the landscape, but actually I have done a couple recently that involved projecting videos onto live streaming videos of landscapes, and I did one with a school in Poole in Cornwall recently, where we were streaming live webcam views of different places around the world. So within the workshop, I am a participant as well. It's never been my intention to teach in any way, because I'm quite a wayward painter. I'm quite sort of haphazard when it comes to painting, and I don't know whether I could teach my approach to landscape painting. So, but I do have some tips, and I will mention those tips as we go. What else do I want to say? So the idea for this particular workshop, as Laura said, the setting is the New Forest, which is the home of William Gilpin, who was a landscape painter, synonymous with the notion of the picturesque. And so my name is Simon Bayliss. I'm based in St Ives in Cornwall, and I've been making landscape paintings, usually outdoors, since I was studying art at Exeter College as a teenager.
My name's Laura. I'm based in the New Forest, just near to Lymington. I did a painting degree, but I've only ever done one painting. That's me.
Okay, so there is a video on the More Than Ponies website about the picturesque, so I don't want to talk too much about it, but I just wanted to say that briefly that my experience of the picturesque, and that's actually coming from landscape gardening rather than painting, and that's so a few years ago I took part in an artist residency at Hestercombe Gardens, and they were the gardens at Hestercombe in Taunton were designed by a landscape gardener and painter. I should have looked up his name, because it was Copperfield Blamfeld, I think his name was, and so, and many of the features at Hestercombe were designed to look like an 18th century landscape. So there's two big ponds, and there's lots of these follies in the landscape, which are little buildings. And if you sit in one of these follies, the trees are kind of curated in a way, or the pond is curated in a way to look like the composition of one of these sort of picturesque landscape paintings, which was interesting, but kind of confusing, because it's a kind of chicken and the egg story, because you think, what came first, the landscape painting or the landscape garden that looks like a landscape painting? Anyway, so that was my experience of the picturesque. But so for the videos, Evie and Laura have been out videoing and taking in some of the rules of the picturesque to create these compositions. And I think we should get on with it, and then I might just sort of chip in with a few other comments as we go. Is that all right, Laura?
Yeah, we're welcoming a bit of chat, aren't we?
Yeah, I think so.
In place of
I think other people can share their experiences, because it's amazing how many painters there are here. And as I said, I am a participant in this, so it'll be interesting to hear what other people's experiences are.
I mean,
as well.
the headline thing that came through from the picturesque, well, the headline I always think, kind of strapline, is the fact that to make landscape look picturesque, humans have to give it a helping hand. So artists do it through the making of a picture, and gardeners do it through like arranging plants in a particular way, or we all do it through social media by moving our screens around or getting a bit of extra tree in there. So, but also the thing is it's also subjective. It's up for your own interpretation. So I think that's where there's this really nice match with this kind of Landscape Painters Anonymous and this kind of like naughty thing that you like to go out and kind of do landscape painting. So I think that's what's the kind of interesting match with it, and that's also going to be interesting to see what people get up to tonight.
Okay, so the videos, there are 4 views on the video. The first one is 10 minutes long, the second one is 23 minutes long, third one 12 minutes, and the last one is 13 minutes, making roughly an hour. So they're all fairly short, so we are going to have to paint quite quickly. So I think with the first one, because it's only 10 minutes, you can sort of treat it as a warm-up one. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and play video. This is the William Gilpin landscape. We've got 10 minutes for this. And yeah, I guess just treat it like a warm-up session. My top tips are, this is what I say to anyone in the workshops. If you don't have a black, the best thing to do is mix blue and brown together, and that makes almost black. And then you don't need much water to make a mark. So when I paint with watercolours, I actually don't tend to use that much water, and I like to do quite dry, sort of scrubby marks as well, with a stiff brush, like an oil brush. I do use watercolour brushes, but I also use acrylic and oil paint brushes as well. And then my other top tip is ask yourself, what colour is a tree trunk? Because I've done these workshops with kids before, and they automatically paint tree trunks as this sort of bright orangey brown, and as this kind of like conditioning that they assume, or we all assume, that a tree trunk must be brown, but it's not. They're not necessarily brown. I mean, that one looks grey to me. Laura, do you want to chip in at all?
I don't think you should be worried about over talking a spirit, because like, I mean, I literally just picked up my paint and I was like, oh, what do I do again? Like, I have to get water and mix it in. So I know that there's some people who really do know how to paint, but I've completely forgotten. So yeah, I don't think you should worry too much about that.
Okay, well, I'm going to do the painting then. So we should be on to the next one, which is a kind of woodland or scrubby scene with bracken in the foreground, and in the background there's like conifer plantation. I think so. This one is 23 minutes long, so we can relax a little bit with this one. Okay, so this one is 12 minutes long, so it's another quick one.
I think this is going to be very hard.
Yeah.
I quite like the one before.
Yeah, I like the one before actually.
Simple. There's loads, but there was loads of like texture in it that you said.
Okay, so this is actually the final video, and it's just under 30 minutes long. So another fairly quick one.
13 or 30?
13.
Gosh.
Yeah, whiz through it.
And it's quite complex.
Yeah, it is actually.
Where are you starting with that then, Simon?
So,
Where are you starting with that? It's a lot to fit in.
personally, I'm going to start with the big hedge in the middle because that will help me decide
Me too.
that composition.
Me too, me too. Simon, did you say like traditionally with watercolour you go dark to light?
No, light to dark.
Light to dark. I'm going to try it.
But you can break all the rules in landscape painting and Anonymous.
Brilliant.
Well, I mean, this is optional because obviously it's landscape paints Anonymous. But you can, if you want, show what you've done. So.
Well, I'd like to get some advice. Yes.
Okay. Do you want to show yours first then, quickly?
Oh God, which one do you want? In order? Hang on. Okay. That's my first.
Nice. How do I? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
This is my second.
Nice.
I mean, they look pretty good to me.
And then this is my pond without any duck, any geese, any swans.
Gorgeous.
And then this is my latest.
Lovely. Nice.
They're a bit samey, I think. No?
They're nice, they're very calming.
What would be your advice, Simon?
I think maybe you could use some different brushes and.
Yeah, I mean, it was because of the speed. I mean, normally I wouldn't be. I've used big brushes and wet on wet a lot because of having to do it very quickly.
Yeah, I think once that's dry, then you could go over it with some darker colours and like bring out some more texture in them. I guess you want to a sort of range in. Well, when I paint, I try to make like a range of different marks and texture and colour, I guess. So some washy areas and then some sort of drier, scratchy areas. Yeah.
How do you do the bracken? Can you?
Simon, talk us through what you've done.
Yeah. I mean, that's how I've done my bracken.
Spotlight you. Let me spotlight you. Yeah. Wow.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
Yeah. That was the one that was quite a long time frame, is that right?
That was the 23-minute one, yeah.
Yeah.
So you just do bits of bracken rather than try and bracken the whole thing?
Yeah. I tend to leave lots of white.
Yeah.
I don't have a sort of go-to technique. Show us
another one. Show us another one. So how much of that is like at what point do you start making it a picture? Because I think like that's one of the things, isn't it? It's like the picturesque is about making a picture. But then I also always think of that kind of life drawing rule, which is like spend 70% of your time looking, and then and that's the main kind of skill is the looking. But yeah, like what's your process in making work?
I don't tend to think about the picture that much. I tend to just be looking and making marks. I sort of, in a way, I sort of think about painting as this quite abstract thing rather than a picture of something. Like painting is more, for me, is more like a journey of mark making or something than making something look like something else, if that makes sense. But
you're not trying to make it look like what you're seeing.
well,
You're trying to use that as a basis for making marks.
Yeah, kind of, yeah. Like a kind of way of sort of playing with mark making and translating observation through the medium of paint in a sort of playful way. I guess that's the way I see landscape painting, as opposed to trying to make something look like a landscape. But then it always does end up looking like a landscape inevitably, because that's what you're painting. But that's very much my approach, and that's not an approach that I would necessarily teach or, you know,
advocate for.
Yeah.
What does everyone feel about have people been outside landscape painting before? Like, what, because obviously, like, when we're inside looking at a screen, we don't have the breeze or the smell of the trees or anything. Does that help make painting, or is it something that we miss, or how does everyone feel about that?
It's exciting.
Look at a screen.
I think it's exciting, but it can also be overwhelming, because there's so many sensations when you're outside, with the wind and the view, and so much to take in, that I think when you go out to start with, it's almost overpowering. So actually you have to get your eye in and calm down in a way. But I love going out painting and drawing.
You're surrounded by the landscape as well.
Yeah.
You know, so it's sort of like you've either got to decide what your view is, you know, and edit. Can I just show you my first two?
Yeah.
Please.
Those are my first two.
That's interesting. So you really fill the paper.
There you go.
Okay.
Ah, yes.
Wow.
I mean, they're not very big. I'll show you all the ones I did.
Yeah.
That was the these were both the
That was the same painting, wasn't it? Oh, yes.
bracken ones,
I like those.
and that was the pond.
Oh, yes.
And then this was the last one, but I didn't have very much time on that because I had a phone call that I had to answer.
Oh, that's great, though. I like.
Nice.
That was a long one.
Nice.
Oh, I like that. That's lovely. Mm. Very nice.
It's
Like that. And
that's my first one. Oh, it's really blue on screen there. That's not really how.
Mhm.
That's
It's
great.
by fading daylight. And that's the one with the swans, or not the swans.
I like that. That's great. I like that.
But my second one was terrible. That's just a kind of muddy, greeny.
I think that's great. It's got like the thing about painting, you can have so many qualities. Like landscape painting doesn't have to be. It has this whole spiritualness of, you know, or earthiness, or being there aspect. And the marks that you make are like really interesting. I mean, Hester's, I really like those as well. You know, in different ways. I think that's the beauty about watercolour as well. It's very, has this kind of poeticness about it that makes a picture, you know, somehow.
Yeah, I certainly enjoyed doing it. I didn't have any white, and I was annoyed about. I wanted to get pink for the.
That's nice.
The flowers, but anyway, and I've got some of Anna's here, which is which one? I'm going to go backwards. That's the last one.
That's great.
Cool.
That's the swans. Oh.
Mm.
They're wonderful.
Very blue. It's very blue on the screen here. And that was the one with the bracken, which was sort of much less, trying less hard than I was.
I like that.
Well, that looks like bracken, whereas mine doesn't. I see. Oh, that's nice.
The other ones went so hot. But I scratched into it. I liked that. I was like, oh yeah. So that felt nice to do that. And the next one I did some scratching. I liked that as well.
Nice.
That was the first one.
Wow.
Nice.
Very drippy, so that's
Oh.
a big hedge.
Oh yeah.
It's a mess.
Wow.
Yeah, I like the more abstract ones, but I think you're right, Simon, about having like different. I was just trying out like a few different marks on the bottom ones just to see. I think you're right about having a mix of like watery and scratchy.
It's interesting seeing everyone's approaches, and it makes me think about how, in a way, watercolour is like you're almost collaborating with the paint itself, because it sort of does what it wants to do in a way, but or you're negotiating with the paint to make something, and everyone has a different way of doing it. That's my basic thought.
I think that's a really good thought to finish off with.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Bye-bye.